With free agency just hours away, Adrian Wojnarowski came out with a report that indicates everything we've been hearing over the past few days, that the Houston Rockets are desperately trying to acquire Toronto Raptors point guard Fred VanVleet, and even the Toronto Raptors beat reporters that have been adamant that Fred VanVleet, he's going to stay. The Raptors are confident he's going to be coming back. You know, everyone that's been swinging the narrative, that take that Fred VanVleet will return to Toronto, they are sort of conceding already that Houston might be a legitimate destination for Fred, and is probably the spot he's going to end up. So we'll break it all down as free agency is just hours away. So basically, I had a little Woj bomb come out via video today. I didn't grab the full video report, but I do have a quote basically from what Adrian Wojnarowski said, saying that Woj implied that the hiring of Ime Udoka changed the Rockets' pursuit of James Harden. I think once Ime Udoka came in as head coach, they started looking at their roster and what they wanted to do in free agency. And I think Fred VanVleet has moved to the top of the list in Houston. So this is basically what Woj is coming out and saying. And you know, we've heard it from Mark Stein. We've heard different things from across the league about Fred VanVleet, where he'll end up. But Adrian Wojnarowski is the guy that we can really just confirm the teams that are going to be going after Fred, and the Houston Rockets are certainly one of them. And this makes sense because Ime Udoka even directly came out with a quote saying that he's looking for established veterans that can be leaders in the locker room, have won championships, have played in big games, and you know, the way it was contextualized, you know, the subtext to what Ime Udoka was saying didn't really infer a James Harden style player that hasn't been to the finals, that hasn't made any ridiculous, well, he has been to the finals when he was a younger player and stuff, but hasn't won any chips, you know, and just winning-esque leadership. The things that he was looking for in a player, at least, are the things that fit Fred VanVleet's brand, fit what people declare Fred VanVleet to be across the NBA. And what I'd consider Fred VanVleet to be, regardless if you like his style, if you think it worked out, if you think he's an egomaniac, like some people are saying in the comment section, he definitely became the alpha dog, the number one guy on this Toronto Raptors team. He's the de facto leader of this group, and that's apparently what Ime Udoka is looking for in one of their max free agent signings, the crazy amount of cap space that they have come this offseason to add in with the bunch of young guys that they have over there in Houston with Şengün, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, you know, they're the Thompson twin that they just drafted. So, you know, Fred VanVleet fits the mold in terms of what Ime Udoka is looking for, and Adrian Wojnarowski is coming out and basically saying, hey, the Rockets are seriously going after Fred VanVleet at this point. So we can assume that the multiple reports we've heard from different outlets that the Fred VanVleet's going to be receiving a 2-year, roughly over $42 million per season contract from the Houston Rockets. It's very likely that's truth, there's substance behind that, and you know, if that's the case, I don't see a world where he's not a Houston Rocket by the end of the day. But apparently reports have come out that he's going to be meeting with representatives from Toronto as well as from Houston in California today. You know, as soon as the eligibility, once you're allowed to sort of speak to free agents, he's going to have those meetings. But as we reported the video came out this morning, but league sources are expected to be shocked if Fred VanVleet is not a Houston Rocket by the end of the night. So more and more smoke. There's gasoline getting poured onto this fire. So, you know, maybe by the time you're watching this, he's already a Houston Rocket. Or we could all be, you know, subverted, expectations completely gone, and we'll see what ends up happening on that front. But it's not just Woj that's conceding, because guys like Michael Grannge, I mean, Josh Lewenberg said he's not buying all the Houston Rockets Fred VanVleet smoke. He said it out there on TSN. Well, the beat reporters are kind of converting now to a world without Fred VanVleet on the rosters. Michael Grannge basically came out and said that he's looked into Fred VanVleet's free agency and the bind the Raptors could be in if he does take an offer from Houston. His meeting with the Raptors and Rockets tonight with Houston is a very strong contender to sign the All-Star guard if Fred VanVleet to the Rockets happens, which he keeps hearing that it will. According to Michael Grannge, perhaps the best option for the Raptors is Gabe Vincent, who is unlikely to return to the Miami Heat, who could be in for a full mid-level exception type of contract. He's 27, play off the ball, playoff proven, all these types of things. And we discussed Gabe Vincent as a potential Fred VanVleet replacement this morning, but Michael Grannge is jumping on the Fred VanVleet Houston Rockets train, and Koreen has been adamant about Fred VanVleet sort of come back saying that if Fred VanVleet leaves, now still saying if and the Toronto Raptors have to turn to the MLE to get guard depth. There's some names in Gabe Vincent, Javon Carter, Dennis Schroeder, Kobe White, Seth Curry. So regardless of what you want to say about Fred VanVleet, and if he ends up going, which it seems like the indications, as said, The Fire's got gasoline poured on it hours ahead of free agency, but with all the beat reporters saying those list of names, sure, they'd be cool role players in the Toronto Raptors. Again, Gabe Vincent would be nice. Javon Carter is an underrated guard in the league. Dennis Schroeder is cool. Kobe White, untapped potential potentially there. Seth Curry's a solid shooter, not getting minutes on the Brooklyn Nets, but those are cool names. And regardless of what you think about Fred VanVleet, that is a significant downgrade at the point guard position, but less money. Flexibility, you can figure out what to do in the future. You're not handcuffed to Fred VanVleet at that point. So, talent-wise, we're taking a step back there with one of these players, but maybe you could say it's an addition by subtraction or something like that. I don't know. I've heard arguments left, right, and center going for Fred VanVleet. I still think this team is better with him on it. I think the Raptors, Fred VanVleet is core to what the Toronto Raptors have been doing in recent seasons, but too much money, you can't really convince the fan base, you can't convince the front office that it's the right move. And the Toronto Raptors have basically said they have a budget, or at least the beat reporters that are indicating that Fred VanVleet's likely going to come back, right? They're saying the Raptors do have a threshold that they're willing to pay Fred VanVleet at. It seems to be a 3-year, potentially $30 million per year season. That's the number ideally Toronto will want to bring Fred back for, but it's tough. It's tough. Like, looking at those names, I mean, we broke down Gabe Vincent. Javon Carter, yes, he's a great backup. He's a dude that has come in and chewed the ball. He's a pit bull on defense. He's a smaller guard, but at your starting position, right, starting for the Toronto Raptors, that's a tough name to sort of sell the fan base on, right? Dennis Schroeder, he's been good for the LA Lakers. I mean, he stole D'Angelo Russell's starting position in the playoffs this season. D'Angelo Russell was the guy earlier in the offseason that we heard linked to the Toronto Raptors. He's been out there killing it at the UFT in these Pro-Am pickup games or whatever the heck is going on there. But, Dennis Schroeder, D'Angelo Russell, not guys that I'm going to be overjoyed. I'm going to be out here celebrating to the max. I'm going to be playing the balloons if we end up signing them and bringing them in and getting hyped about. Like, those aren't names that are that exciting. Kobe White is a guy that was rumored in a bunch of trade scenarios for the Toronto Raptors. He's a restricted free agent. No one really knows what value he's going to be out there in the open market. Seth Curry can't really... He's not that consistent. He doesn't bring on the defensive end. He'd be a cool off-ball player, but with Gary Trent Jr. and Grady Dick now in the lineup, if Joe Wieskamp comes back as well, is there a huge dimension added with Steph Curry to the squad? He's not a PG. He's not going to command the offense. We're going to have to figure something out big time. And if Fred VanVleet goes, as soon as that happening, right, we need to figure out what the Toronto Raptors are going to do ahead of this free agency. Because just like we spent many years without a center, it would be brutal spending another few seasons without a true point guard. And maybe Scotty's your guy in Darko's new system. Maybe it's the root. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys want to see the Toronto Raptors do? Coming up with free agency just around the corner. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell notification. Never really asked for that. But we're going to be going live, tonight for free agency, breaking down everything that's going down. Haven't been live in a while, so I'd like to chat with all of you folks. Get Riker back out here on here. So, folks, you guys are best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.